what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
I'm going to be working for you so hard, and we're going to turn our country around, and we are indeed going to make America great again.
Tonight was supposed to be debate night until Donald Trump declined the rematch. So the two are hitting crucial battleground states instead, with the former president in Georgia and the vice president in Pennsylvania. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And we are less than 2 weeks away from Election Day, but remember, that is not when the election starts. It is the last day, the day voting ends, because early voting is already underway in a handful of states right now, with Americans making their way to the polls every single day. Over 17 million people have already cast their ballots, including Governor Tim Walz, who cast his vote in St. Paul, Minnesota today. Now, as ballots are being cast, both candidates remain on the campaign trail, making their final pitch to voters. Former President Donald Trump just took the stage in Duluth, Georgia, moments ago. You see it right there. He also took part in a faith-focused town hall in the state before that, where he said that if Christians were good voters, he wouldn't lose.
If you look over the last 30 years or so, for whatever reason, Christians are not tremendous voters in terms of percentage. If they were, we'd never lose an election. We wouldn't have had these people in office. We would never lose an election.
Now, Trump's campaign stop somewhat overshadowed by new reporting from the New York Times about Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, calling Trump a fascist and describing an alleged admiration for Hitler. He did so in a series of recorded interviews. Take a listen to part of what he said.
He commented more than once that, you know, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
Vice President Harris responding to Kelly's comments in D.C. earlier today.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions.
Let's bring in NBC's Vaughn Hilliard from Duluth, Georgia. Vaughn, look, you've been on the politics beat for a long time. You've seen a lot of stump speeches. So many of those speeches are kind of the same thing, different place. But recently with Trump, have you seen a shift in tone? What's your biggest takeaway from the closing messages that you're hearing behind you?
Absolutely. We're 13 days out, and this is no normal campaign. This is no normal candidacy. This is a Republican nominee who has been found guilty on 34 felony counts earlier this year, indicted in 3 other cases on criminal charges, and somebody who was nearly assassinated. And with all of that, over the last 2 years, he is at a point, at a precipice, where he is looking at polling and feels like he is on the brink of getting back into the White House again. At the same time, this is happening, well, not only the likes of his former chief of staff, John Kelly, are speaking out against him, but you also have heard from a litany of other former administration officials who work closely with him. His former Pentagon Secretary, James Mattis, and Mark Esper, former Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, his former National Security Advisors, H.R. McMaster and John Bolton. But of course, it's John Kelly, the man who worked as his chief of staff, suggesting that he is an authoritarian that has led Donald Trump here in these closing days on the campaign trail, especially over the last 24 hours, Gadi, to strike a very specific tenor. And that is one that there are some in the country that do not want America to move forward, and there are others that want to move the country in a different direction. And he is using people like John Kelly and Liz Cheney, who's been on the campaign trail with Kamala Harris, to try to galvanize his base of supporters to say, without those individuals as roadblocks come a second administration, he'll be even able to be even more successful in his terms as a presidential candidate.
And Vaughn, how is the campaign responding to these comments by John Kelly? And has the former president said anything about those comments on stage?
Yeah, so far we're waiting to hear from his mouth any words, but in a social media post, he went on the attack against John Kelly calling him, I forget the name off the top of my head, and I don't want to misquote the former president, but I do want to let you hear, though, from his son, Don Jr., who our colleague Garrett Haight caught up with just a few moments ago. Take a listen to that exchange.
What do you say to his longest-serving chief of staff who's saying that publicly about him now?
I'm saying it's sort of funny that he didn't say this for 5 years, but now he's coming out 2 weeks before an election because he's part of that swamp. He's doing their bidding. That's how you get a board seat in Washington, D.C.
And again, Donald Trump isn't necessarily running away from this, Gadi. He is taking all of these criticisms head on and trying to use them to galvanize his faithful base of support. He believes that that could be very well enough to win him this election in battleground states like here in Georgia.
And does that turning things on its head, does that seem to be resonating with voters?
Yes, to a certain extent. Is it enough? I don't know. But when you're looking at the math for Donald Trump across really the 7 battleground states, his pathway to victory is by juicing turnout, taking those Trump faithful supporters, ensuring that they are Trump voters, but then also having rather narrow gains among young voters, 18 to 29-year-olds, Gen Z voters, particularly males, who didn't even vote in the last presidential election because they weren't eligible to, and then making, it may be 1, 2, 3 percentage point gains among black voters and Latino voters. If he is able to figure out that math, he would have been able to win the 2020 presidential election, and that is the math that the campaign is looking at right now here in 2024.
Vaughn Hilliard, thank you so much out there in Georgia. And in a little less than an hour, Vice President Kamala Harris is going to hold a town hall with voters in suburban Philadelphia, where she's going to take questions from a live audience. NBC correspondent Yamiche Alcindor joins us now from Philly. Yamiche, I do want to play a little bit more of what Harris said this afternoon about Trump's alleged comments. Take a listen.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans.
So the Harris campaign, they're trying to capitalize on John Kelly's comments. How do you see that playing out over the next few days?
Well, good evening, Gadi. What I see playing out is what we're already seeing today, which is that the Harris campaign and the candidate herself, the vice president, is really seizing on these statements by John Kelly, the former chief of staff, of course, the former President Trump, and really underscoring that this really shows that the argument that they've been making, that former President Donald Trump is a danger to democracy, is not just something that they're saying, but also something that people who worked with him are saying. So you can expect the vice president to continue to be talking about this. For her running mate, Tim Walz, who says as a 24-year military veteran that he feels sick when he thinks about Donald Trump's words here. We can also expect that she's probably going to talk about this tonight in this town hall when it's going to get started here in under an hour. And we can expect also that she's going to be talking about not just sort of the issues that were happening in the past, but that there's danger on the forefront. As part of today, she talked about the fact that Donald Trump won't have guardrails in people like John Kelly if he gets a second term. And she also said that he really wants to put the country in a position where the military is loyal to Donald Trump and not to the Constitution. So we're just going to expect to hear more and more about this, and we can also expect to hear this at campaign rallies and at campaign events, and including at surrogates, with surrogates like Liz Cheney, who of course was the former Republican congresswoman who was out campaigning with the vice president this week, making that case about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy. Gadi.
And the Harris campaign out there in Pennsylvania, that has become like the battleground of battlegrounds. How is it going out there?
It has become the battleground of battlegrounds. And what I'm seeing both on the ground is that there is an electorate that's still movable. I want to tell you about this man that I met in Chester County, Pennsylvania. He went to this Liz Cheney moderated event with Vice President Harris. He said going into the event that he was reckoning with whether or not he could support a woman to be president. He's an African-American man in his 40s. He said that he just didn't know if he could really do it. sitting in that event, he said, listening to Vice President Harris talk about her policy stances, his mind was changed in that moment, and now he's going to be voting for Vice President Harris. So he's one of those people that maybe is a unicorn, but he's the kind of voter that Vice President Harris is hoping continues to connect with her and continues to shift in her favor. And what we see is that the polls show that this is really a margin of error race, that there are just all over this state, but also all over the country. When you look at the battlegrounds, it's 1 or 2 percentage points in either direction. So certainly this is why you're seeing the vice president and, frankly, the former president barnstorming the country, because they're hoping they can connect with voters to make their case in this final couple of days here.
Yamiche Alcindor in Philadelphia for us tonight. Yamiche, thanks so much. And some breaking news tonight as one of former President Trump's biggest supporters, definitely the richest supporter, Elon Musk, is facing new scrutiny. The Justice Department is now warning Musk that his million-dollar giveaways to voters might be illegal. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the latest.
What started as a swing state giveaway by tech billionaire Elon Musk has now earned the attention of the U.S. Justice Department.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
The Tesla CEO, who has been ramping up his support for former President Donald Trump, making that $1 million offer Saturday. The petition, a pledge to support First and Second Amendment rights, but receiving the prize money is contingent on being registered to vote in the 7 key battleground states expected to decide the election. A source familiar with the matter telling NBC News the Justice Department sent a letter to Musk's super PAC warning that giveaway may be illegal. Federal law prohibits paying people to register to vote.
Take over, Elijah!
Musk donating nearly $75 million to his pro-Trump super PAC since July. The PAC's treasurer tonight not responding to a message left by NBC News. The Justice Department declined to comment. Vice President Kamala Harris dismissing the $1 million giveaway in an interview with Hallie Jackson Monday.
I'm not about doing it, gimmicks and all of that.
So, Gadi, the bottom line question here of whether or not this giveaway was legal really comes down to who you talk to. Some election law experts will say, look, the way that Musk managed to couch this with the pledge instead of just giving people cash to go to register to vote may give him some legal protection. Others will say the intent to register voters was clear. But bottom line, whether or not he's actually prosecuted for this or not, it's not going to happen before Election Day on November 5th. I'll send it back to you, Gadi.
Well, thanks so much. And tonight, McDonald's is in full-blown damage control mode, trying to reassure the public that its food is safe after this deadly E. coli outbreak you've probably heard of. At least one person has died. Dozens more are sick after supposedly eating McDonald's Quarter Pounders. And the CDC says the fresh slivered onions on the Quarter Pounder might be to blame. So far, 10 states have reported cases, including a deadly one in Colorado. And here's what the president of McDonald's said earlier today on the Today Show.
We are very confident that you can go to McDonald's and enjoy our classics. You know, we took swift action yesterday to remove the Quarter Pounder from our menu. We'll be working with the CDC and cooperating with them on the investigation, and we'll take in more data and let the science continue to lead our actions.
And joining us now is NBC News correspondent Mara Barrett. Mara, what do we know about these onions and how this outbreak spread?
Well, there's still a lot of fact-finding to do. The CDC, the FDA, and the USDA and McDonald's are putting their heads together to really narrow down where this outbreak came from. On a call earlier with media, a company spokesperson laid out that they don't think it had anything to do with production or anything going on in the facilities, but rather coming from supply. And so the company spokesperson also laid out they don't think it could be the beef necessarily because it's their mandate that when they cook them in the store, they have to be cooked at 10 degrees hotter than the temperature that would kill E. coli. And so that's why they're looking so specifically at the onions. But as you've noted, the fallout has already happened. One lawsuit already filed today. Someone who was tested positive for E. coli in Colorado, blaming McDonald's for what they call product liability and negligence. And analysts say that this is probably just the first of many lawsuits to come.
And Mara, a lot of big promises from McDonald's at this point, but can people be sure that McDonald's has this under control?
McDonald's is definitely projecting confidence in this. I think it's important to note that the CDC says that it takes about 4 weeks or so to ID one individual illness to tie it to an outbreak. And so when we spoke with the director of the CDC's outbreak prevention department, he noted that the numbers will likely go up in coming days or weeks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are new cases. I want to hear a little bit more from him on that.
We do expect the number of illnesses to go up. We think that's going to be driven by people who ate Quarter Pounders at McDonald's before they took these actions. So for someone walking into a McDonald's today, we think those actions that have been taken by the company to remove certain beef patties and onions are going to be effective, I think, at reducing that risk.
Again, McDonald's has said that they've pulled the Quarter Pounder product from all affected stores. That total is about 1/5 of McDonald's restaurants across the country. But that being said, they're projecting, again, the confidence that there's no infection in food that is on the market right now. So take that for what it may be if you're thinking about going through that drive-thru later.
Mara Barrett, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal in the studio. Doctor, I mean, hearing that, my first question is, how long can E. coli or this outbreak last, and what does E. coli do to you?
So it's a great question, Gadi, and to piggyback off what the director just said there, the incubation period, which means at the time you're exposed to something, at the time you develop symptoms, for this strain of E. coli is about 3 to 4 days. So just because the products have been pulled from the market and people are sort of aware, the reason we might start to see some cases, even in the coming days, is because it could take some time to know if you're sick. I mean, so what does that look like? When we talk about E. coli infections, first of all, E. coli is a bacteria. There's plenty of harmless strains, but there's about 6 in particular the CDC warns about, this being one of them. And the symptoms, if you get sick, Gadi, it's stomach cramps, it's vomiting, it's diarrhea, it's sort of classical food poisoning symptoms. And the one we really worry about with this strain is kidney involvement. It can cause really, really severe kidney damage in rare cases. And that first one you see on your screen there, the high fever over 102 degrees, that's when it's time to call your doctor.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that, if you suspect that you may have E. coli, do you want to wait for a couple of days just to see if these symptoms get worse, or do you want to call your doctor immediately, given what we've seen so far?
If you're somebody who's over the age of 65, maybe you have a weak immune system, you're fighting an autoimmune disease, you're fighting cancer, or you're a child under the age of 5 years old, I would call your doctor pretty soon if you get these symptoms. But for everybody else, these tend to get better over the course of a few days. Most people get better in about a week or so without treatment. But red flags, right? What are we looking for? That high fever, that 102-degree fever we talked about. Your diarrhea, it's been 3 days, it's not going away, it's not getting better. That's a red flag. And if you're not able to, maintain your oral intake, meaning you can't eat and drink like you normally do, we worry about dehydration. And if you're having diarrhea and you're not sort of repleting it at the other end, we worry that you could be dehydrated, and that's a good time to call your doctor as well.
Such important information. Dr. Akshay Syal, thank you so much.
Anytime.
And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, deadly wildfires have broken out, and no, it's not here on the West Coast. It is in the northeastern part of the country. NBC's Bill Cairns is going to be here in a moment with more on why unseasonably warm temperatures and dry conditions are leading to a new threat. Plus, the police department in Albuquerque is under fire tonight. That's after officers shot and killed a man who was already in custody. Details on how the community there is responding straight ahead. And single-use cameras, well, they're getting a second shot. The days of taking a photo with nothing more than a click and a prayer are back, and we're going to get into why disposable cameras are all of a sudden popular again. That's coming up later this hour, so stay tuned.
It's cool because you don't know what you're seeing and what you're going to get.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the headlines we're watching tonight. Just minutes ago, tens of thousands of Boeing factory workers finished a vote on whether to accept a contract that includes big pay raises. Now, the union's going to announce the outcome sometime tonight, and if approved, it could end a weeks-long strike against the aerospace company, which they say has cost them over $6 billion. And this morning, a Manhattan judge ruled that prosecutors can combine 2 sex crime cases against Harvey Weinstein into one single trial. That trial, most likely to start in the spring, is a retrial of an earlier case that was overturned, and now a new accusation will be considered at the same time. Now, the decision comes 2 days after NBC News first reported that Weinstein had been diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. And today, the Transportation Department handed out a $50 million fine to American Airlines for violating disability laws. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the airline damaged thousands of wheelchairs and even failed to provide quick wheelchair assistance. American Airlines says they are making efforts to improve their performance with passengers who need wheelchairs and other mobility devices. And former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Fernando Valenzuela has died. Now, the star Rookie of the Year player was once one of the most dominant of his era, creating that craze, Fernando Mania. The news comes as the Dodgers prepare to open the World Series this Friday, and the team's commissioner says Valenzuela will be honored during the series. And just a few hours ago, NASA astronauts were able to finally leave the International Space Station after weeks of weather delays. The crew members are expected to touch down off of Florida's coast early Friday morning. And a rare combo of warm weather and dry conditions in the Northeast is leading to an even more rare wildfire outbreak. Red flag warnings are in effect, not here in California, but for the entire state of Connecticut. The first time in 4 years that type of warning has been issued up in the Northeast. Now, a lot of the concerns centering around the Hawthorne fire burning in Berlin, Connecticut. That started on Monday, and within the last 24 hours, one firefighter was killed when the truck he was riding in rolled over on a trail. 3 other firefighters were hurt.
The firefighter community is it's strong. It's hard to keep a lot of the guys away after something like this. They want to finish the job. That's what they're there for, and they want to do it to honor those that we've lost.
Now, there is more help pouring in to tackle the fire. Officials already activated Connecticut's National Guard, and Maine is sending over some of their air support crews. But it's not just Connecticut. New Jersey is also seeing some wildfires spark up there, leading to concerns that the fire threat will continue to increase across the Northeast. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton is tracking the latest tonight. Antonia?
Hey, Gadi, there's really a perfect storm of strange conditions here. Abnormally warm weather in the Northeast. Don't normally get to wear short sleeves in late October. And then drought conditions. Days and days without rain, little humidity in the air, and then dry fall leaves all collecting on the ground now. These are the kinds of conditions that lead to what we're seeing happen in Connecticut, where a massive brush fire has now consumed more than 125 acres near Lamentation Mountain in the Berlin area of Connecticut. And now firefighters and responding teams are doing everything they can from the ground to contain and create a perimeter around the fire, but also to respond from the air. Even the National Guard is coming in. And these teams, they're going to be dumping water from the air onto the fire to do what they can to keep this from spreading to people's homes and businesses, of course. At this point, no properties, no homes have been affected, though. Take a listen to a conversation with one of the firefighters responding on the ground.
We have it contained within a box at this time, and we are working to secure all the edges. With today's weather forecast, we will be tested on those lines, and if the lines hold, we will be able to make great progress on this.
And then many people in Connecticut now, Gadi, they're in mourning as they also try to keep an eye on what's happening with this fire. And that's because one of the firefighters on Tuesday night passed away after an ATV rolled over at the scene, killing him and injuring several others who are expected to make a full recovery. But it has, of course, just led to this sort of complicated effort now where the very people doing everything they can to keep their neighbors safe are also mourning the loss of a friend. Gadi.
Antonia Hilton in New York for us tonight. Thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, we're used to seeing wildfires, red flag warnings here on the West Coast during this time of year, but what's causing this dry streak in the Northeast?
It just won't rain. I mean, the jet stream went to the north, Gadi, and we needed the rain. It's not just in the Northeast either. I mean, almost half the country all of a sudden is enveloped in drought. You know, moderates when we get to the lighter colors of brown here, and then extreme and exceptional. And you notice we have different patches here jumping up into the extreme and exceptional ranges, and the drought by the day is getting worse on the East Coast, and in the South, it's already bad enough in the middle of the country. And the problem is that it's been one of the driest Octobers we've ever recorded in this country. We have a chance of the driest October ever in our recorded history of our country. So, you know, those records, the weather records at least, go back to the late 1800s. So whenever we get, you know, it's so dry, whenever the wind's up and the humidity's down, temperatures are up, you're going to get red flag warnings. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. And tomorrow, that's going to be in New Jersey. Today, it was in Connecticut. And this is the areas that these brush fires keep flaring up. Of course, we've seen a lot of the pictures from the one here in Connecticut, the Hawthorne fire. It's contained, but they're worried about if it could jump the containment lines, of course, while the leaves falling, you know, blowing around of the brush, that sort of thing. But we had record highs once again today in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. We were close to record highs in many other areas of New York State, and that's going to continue for the southern half of the country. The Northeast is going to cool down, but the entire southern half of the country, at least 50 record highs are possible. No rain, very warm, almost like summer-like temperatures. I know a lot of people like to give that AC a break, and we have fire weather dangers tomorrow. The brush fire threat is high, Oklahoma into Kansas, because it's so dry. It's going to be very windy tomorrow afternoon, so that's also going to be an issue. And the rainfall forecast, I mean, October, I've already written it off. We're done. I mean, the only spot that's going to get rain is Iowa up into Wisconsin. This is over the next 7 days. That's wild for the entire country. I mean, the Pacific Northwest gets a little bit of rain, but even by their standards, that's nothing. And here's the big thing as we head towards the first week of November, Gadi, you guessed it, exceptionally warm in the east, a little cooler than average in the west. But what's going to change is a storm is hopefully, fingers crossed, going to move into the middle of the country and provide some much needed wet weather. But there's really no hope for the Northeast all the way out through the first week of November. We're going to see some all-time record-breaking streaks. Like New York City is going to go the longest between rainfall events in its recorded history. And that goes back to like the 1850s.
Bill Cairns, thank you so much. And coming up, drilling into a huge Election Day issue in battleground Pennsylvania, fracking inside the debate and how voters there are making sure they know where the presidential candidates stand. But first, you got to see this. LeBron and Bronny James made history last night as the first father-son duo to play together in an NBA game. The two checked in with 4 minutes left in the second quarter, and it was a moment they and the rest of Laker Nation would never forget. To top it off, it ensured a victory against the Timberwolves. Seems like James and Son will be open for business for the time being. I'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. And here's some of the stories happening out west that we're following right now. Oscar-winning director Roman Polanski won't be going to trial for an alleged rape from 1973. Instead, both sides have reached a settlement. Polanski was already convicted in 1977 for drugging and assaulting a 13-year-old girl, but fled to Europe before that sentencing and is still considered a fugitive from justice in the United States. Attempts to extradite him have failed. And Walmart is admitting to dumping hazardous waste in California landfills. This is part of a settlement agreement with the state, and the company will pay $7.5 million for illegally dumping toxic waste from 2016 to 2021 across the state. California's Attorney General says they found thousands of containers of toxic aerosol and liquids. The retail giant also agreed to improve its waste programs. And an early morning mess in downtown Los Angeles. A burst water main shut down parts of the 101 freeway. Water flooding the road there, making for a traffic nightmare. Fortunately, all lanes reopened around noon. And in New Mexico, Albuquerque police are facing backlash from protesters and city officials, and it comes after the shooting and killing of a man with a gun who was already in the back of a squad car. The department releasing body cam video of the incident, and we want to warn you, you might find it disturbing.
What do you have in your hand, dude?
A gun.
Yo, dude, bro. Stop. Stop, dude. Dude, stop.
Now, that happened Friday during a drug sting. Police say the man had several warrants, but they admit they never patted him down. And a short time later, police say he reached for that gun in the waistband. That's when you see the chaos that followed. Now, city council members are demanding accountability.
Never have I seen, in my 29 years, have I seen an officer have to shoot someone in handcuffs. Have you checked to see what the quality of officer that we are hiring is and the quality of training that's going on at APD?
Suspects' parents are also calling for answers today.
We found out from people on the streets. We went up there and we weren't allowed to cross the line. While I feel in my heart they crossed the line with our son.
NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us now in the studio. Steve, I mean, the question that's being asked by the city council, same question so many of us have, like, how is this guy not patted down?
City council, protesters outside there as well. A lot of people want answers on this. The police chief has said that is what is part of what is under investigation at this point, that there has been, you know, this massive misinformation that has come about this case, and that the investigation has to play out. It sounds like the chief and the department is posturing as if this was a very contentious drug bust, that they had to get him quickly into the car, and because of that time that was lost, they were unable to pat him down. And it sounds like there's much more video to be had, and of course that is what the council, what the protesters, what reporters are asking for. Here's the chief on what he's saying they have so far and why this is so contentious. Listen to this.
Misinformation has driven this in a very negative direction. The individual involved and their family, officers and their families, they deserve to have proper information. The key thing here is we need time to conduct an investigation to get through the facts.
And the facts are why the chief says they just simply need more time to continue with that investigation and to perhaps deliver maybe more video as to what happened. Apparently, there was also a conversation between the officers that may shed more light on this.
Yeah, and to all respect to the chief, I mean, we already do have a bunch of the facts, and those facts are included in that video. And if you can walk us through a little bit of what's going on in that video, because let me just ask you, did I hear the suspect say, "I've got a gun"?
Yes. That's at least what, again, the chief, the department, nobody's confirming any of these details. So it's suffice to say, like, I can't necessarily say that, but you hear it on tape, right? They're asking him what he has in his waistband, what do you got in your pocket? And it appears to sound like he says, "I have a gun." Now, it's very difficult to imagine that he's grabbed this gun from his waistband because his hands are cuffed. So they would have, if they didn't check for that gun, this is the situation that they're in at this point, but it's unclear. And I think part of that clarity has to come from the investigation. It has to come from the release of more video, both before this point and I think after this point, which will hopefully shed a little bit more light. But yeah, it does sound like that's what he says, and officers take action. Is it the right action? That's part of the investigation.
And for people that live in New Mexico, look, I was a reporter in Albuquerque for a long time. And I just remember officer-involved shooting after officer-involved shooting. This is not the first time they've had an incident, right? They have a long history of officer-involved shooting.
I mean, you know better than anyone. They've had a consent decree now for at least the last 10 years or so. The Department of Justice, after a 2014 investigation, became involved after there were all of these officer-involved shootings, I think 10 in 1 year, followed by officer-involved incidents that just kept repeating. And then they were under sort of a survey by the Department of Justice where they had to report back. They had to institute new trainings. They had to institute Bodycam. Body-worn cams are the reason why we're able to see this video. That's part of the decree. But at this point, you know, the investigation has moved to a point where the department should be monitoring itself. So for this to keep happening, I think, is the reason why so many people have questions. And 9 officer-involved shootings, not including this one, this year alone. So this is still happening.
Despite that consent decree.
Yeah.
Steve Patterson, thank you.
Thanks.
And in Arizona, fears of violence against election workers as a flurry of election-related threats have officials there on high alert. Take a listen.
Tempe police say that they arrested a suspect in connection to 3 separate shooting incidents targeting a Democratic National Committee office.
The 24-year-old arrested by Tempe police accused of sending threatening messages to prominent Republicans.
In Phoenix, a bomb squad was dispatched to Republican Senate candidate Carrie Lake's campaign office today.
Security experts that respond to these situations believe this year is the worst it's ever been.
And police are tracking those threats as both campaigns make big pushes for voters. Donald Trump, Don Jr., Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and Joe Biden all have scheduled events in the Phoenix area throughout the weekend. The threats are also coming in as voting is underway in the state's largest county, Maricopa County. Election officials say almost a fifth of expected votes have already been cast. They're also warning that the vote in Maricopa could take almost 2 weeks to tabulate. That's They're saying thanks to longer than normal ballots and, quote, high interest in this year's election. Liz Kreutz joins us now. And Liz, as I understand it, you're getting some late-breaking details on this, right?
Yeah, so this is the incident of this 60-year-old man, Jeffrey Michael Kelly, who is now charged on multiple charges here for apparently and allegedly firing or shooting into a Democratic office in Tempe, Arizona. First with a BB gun and then twice then with a firearm. Officials also say that this week he was placing anti-Harris signs around Phoenix and attaching to those signs bags with an unknown white substance, which he was labeling biohazard, and also attaching razor blades to that. So he is under arrest. But what we are getting in is new details right now, Gadi, from his court appearance today with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office here. I'm going to read it, saying that the ATF officers and law enforcement, that they believe that this person was preparing to commit an act of mass casualty. He had over 120 guns, 250,000 rounds of ammunition, and a grenade launcher at his home. He is now behind bars right now, and he is being held on $500,000 bail.
Wow, and that is just one instance, right? They're seeing a bunch of different instances, and they're not all originating in Arizona, right?
No, right. So we did just this week as well have a 24-year-old high school teacher from Tempe, Arizona, get arrested for making online threats against Donald Trump Jr. But some of the other threats we've seen against Maricopa County in particular are coming from other parts of the country. There's somebody from Alabama who's just pled guilty and now sentenced to 30 months in prison after pleading guilty to sending threats to a social media account linked to the Maricopa County Elections Department. And there's also a Colorado man today who was in federal court that pled guilty to making threats to kill election officials, top election officials in Colorado and in Arizona. It's really the hotbed for a lot of this right now.
What kind of security measures are officials trying to put into place here?
Well, you were there 4 years ago, so you watched as everything unfolded. And since then, the county has only continued to receive more threats. They've really beefed up their security. I mean, it's kind of astonishing when you think about it. The tabulation center in Maricopa County this election cycle is going to have, first of all, double fencing all around it, metal securities at the entrances. On top of that, snipers on the roof, and they're going to have law enforcement wearing bulletproof vests. They're going to have drone surveillance. So they are taking this very seriously, really beefing up their security as people head to the polls.
Wow. Liz Kreutz, thank you. Thanks. And fracking is a hot button issue in Pennsylvania, a state that could decide who wins the presidential election. And according to a recent Washington Post poll, 68% of Pennsylvania voters favor fracking compared to 19% who are against it. Fracking critics say the process uses massive amounts of water and can pollute the environment, contaminate water supplies, even cause earthquakes. But those in the industry say there are many ways to frack safely with the environment in mind. NBC News 2024 campaign embed Emma Barnett takes us to a fracking pad in Pennsylvania.
It's 3 a.m. in rural Pennsylvania. Nothing new for John Stewart and Cameron Energy Company in a part of the state that has been transformed by a technique to extract gas and oil.
Fracking is the shorthand for hydrofracture, where we pump water and sand into the ground under pressure. Once the rock has broken, we have that fracture,
which releases the oil and gas trapped inside, and which has spawned an industry that employs tens of thousands of people in Pennsylvania.
Cameron Energy Company has 1,800 of these oil wells, and this particular oil well will pump more than 100 gallons of oil just today.
To win the White House in November, Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump will likely have to win Pennsylvania, meaning their stance on fracking could be a decisive one.
If anybody here believes that you will let your energy industry continue like fracking, you should immediately go to a psychiatrist.
For John, Trump feels like the obvious pick.
When he was in office, we had a much better outlook for our business.
Harris has said she does not want to ban fracking, something she was explicit about in last month's debate.
I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States.
But that was not her position in 2019, when she first ran for president.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
It's this flip-flop that makes it hard for some Pennsylvania voters to trust Harris when it comes to fracking, but not Robert Baer, who oversees union workers who do the drilling and the well capping.
The Biden-Harris administration has taken notice of how important energy, specifically gas, is.
The U.S. is the world's biggest oil and gas producer and has remained so under the Biden-Harris administration. Despite this data, that trust factor, egged on by Trump, looms large.
She doesn't line up with my views. She wants to get rid of the things that I do for a living.
But Democrats like Frank Gray say Harris is the better option.
And I think that's what she will enforce, that we do not want to pollute the land or pollute the waters and the air. There are ways to do it safely, and it's going to create a lot more jobs for the American people.
And while voters in the fracking industry may not agree on who to vote for, the ones we spoke to say fracking is critical to Pennsylvania.
The energy policy of this nation has to include fossil fuels in the near term. There's just no way around it.
The question is, can we survive without fracking in our modern society? The answer is no.
Something both candidates are aware of in the final push to Election Day. And Gadi, get this. Pennsylvania is the nation's second largest natural gas producing state after Texas. Fracking is woven into the fabric of the state and is a top issue in down ballot races. Gadi?
Emma Barnett, thank you so much. And still ahead, thousands of North Korean troops confirmed to be on the ground in Russia. What this could mean for the ongoing war with Ukraine. Our Keir Simmons reporting from Russia tonight. That's coming up just after this. And tonight, the U.S. has confirmed that North Korea has sent troops to Russia and thousands more may be on the way. All of this is raising questions over whether their involvement crosses a line and whether this could mean more countries get pulled into the war in Ukraine. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest.
Tonight, the U.S. confirming a potentially dangerous escalation in the Ukraine war. The White House says Kim Jong-un has sent at least 3,000 soldiers into eastern Russia, traveling by boat from North Korea and then training at Russian bases.
If Russia is indeed forced to turn to North Korea for manpower, this would be a sign of weakness, not strength.
The South Korean intelligence service says these satellite images show North Korean troops in Russia. The U.S. says exactly what they are doing is yet to be seen. But if they are sent into combat with Ukrainian soldiers, it would be a dramatic new step.
These are going to be quality troops, so there's a tactical implication.
And it would further globalize a war that has already reshaped alliances. America's ambassador to China telling NBC's Janice Makifreya Beijing is also supporting Russia's war effort.
The government of China is allowing its companies here to export critical dual-use technology to the Russian defense industrial base so that Russia can prosecute this barbaric war against the people of Ukraine.
Today, here in Russia, China's President Xi standing shoulder to shoulder with President Putin. At that summit here in Russia this week, President Putin was surrounded by world leaders. His message, I'm far from isolated.
Keir Simmons, thank you. And in Turkey, at least 5 people were killed and over 20 hurt after one of the country's top defense companies was attacked. Now, this happened near the capital, and Turkish authorities are calling this a terrorist attack. The company makes fighter jets and other equipment for NATO's second largest military after the United States. 2 of the attackers were also killed, but an investigation is underway to identify the attackers. And NBC's Danielle Hamamjian has more.
The deadly attack was carried out at the headquarters of the state-run Turkish aerospace industries that was near the capital. According to authorities, several people were killed. More than 20 people were injured in what authorities say was a terror attack. According to local officials telling NBC News that 2 attackers arrived by taxi, a man and a woman, carrying assault rifles and a backpack. According to witnesses, there was an exchange of fire in the parking lot, and witnesses also heard an explosion. The details are still slowly emerging, but we have confirmation from the Interior Minister in Turkey that those 2 attackers were, quote, neutralized, and that there was a media blackout throughout the country. Now, what do we know about the Turkish aerospace industries? It's the country's largest aerospace manufacturer. It produces fighter jets as well as combat and civilian helicopters. It also employs more than 10,000 people. The attack has been condemned by the U.S. and the EU as well as NATO, whose Secretary General said today that the military alliance stands by its ally, Turkey.
Danielle Hamemjan, thank you. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything, and we're going to be talking about using AI to assess the aftermath of natural disasters, the way insurance adjusters are now using AI technology to fulfill claims so homeowners can start rebuilding even faster. Plus, what's old is new again. Inside the comeback for disposable cameras, why holding a picture in your hands is cool again. Stay tuned. And in tonight's Future of Everything, after back-to-back hurricanes that caused enormous damage across several states, insurance adjusters are out in force and looking down the road. There's a chance that in the future, a lot of their analysis could start with the use of balloons. CNBC's Diana Olick explains.
You're looking at stratospheric AI-enabled robotic cameras flying on weather balloons. They're called Swifties, the brainchild of Near Space Labs, a Brooklyn, New York startup looking to modernize the way the insurance industry assesses both property risk and damage in an increasingly volatile climate.
With our balloons and our Swifts, insurance companies are able to get access to information right after the catastrophe and assess the damage and pay out claims within days instead of weeks and months.
Near Space Labs uses giant weather balloons to launch its cameras twice as high as airplanes go. The cameras provide high-resolution imagery over thousands of square miles.
Our balloons capture what 800,000 drones would with one flight. This means that we can be faster, better, and cheaper for our customers.
And it's not just for use after a storm. Insurance and reinsurance companies like Swiss Re are using Near Space to help them understand and price risk. The imagery of specifics like roof characteristics, surrounding vegetation, defensible space, all feed into customer AI data sets. That part is especially attractive to investors.
If you are actually going to be able to use AI to do risk analysis, you need a cheap, abundant source of imagery. And you know, we believe that at least over the next decade, Near Space is probably the cheapest way to do this.
In addition to Third Sphere, Near Space is backed by Crosslink Capital, Wireframe Ventures, IAG Firemark, Toyota Ventures, and Lead Out Capital. Total funding to date, $24 million.
Diana Olick, thank you. And finally tonight, another example of what's old is new. Remember those disposable cameras that were so popular back in the 1990s and early 2000s? Well, they're back thanks to a new generation. So put away that phone for just a sec and take a look as film rolls in for a comeback.
From Snoop Dogg at the Olympics to Hope Walls at the Democratic National Convention, suddenly disposable cameras seem everywhere.
1, 2, 3.
For photographers and friends Allison Blackman and Asia Villacrez,
That was a good one.
it's all about the look and the experience.
Why a disposable camera?
I think just the easiness of it. It's cool because you don't know what you're seeing and what you're going to get.
Do you carry disposable cameras with you?
Yes, I always have one on deck.
You have one right now. Wow.
We set out to shoot a few rolls.
2, 1.
Nice.
At one of the most photographed places in LA.
Let's hope it's in frame.
I like it just because it keeps me very present.
Compared to the camera we're all carrying in our pockets.
All right, so we've got a phone.
It's 10 times better. Yeah. It's 10 times better, I'll promise you.
You could unlimited pictures. The quality is better.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe.
According to Kodak Moments, it's more than just vibes. Sales of the company's single-use cameras have doubled over the last 5 years, driven largely by millennials and Gen Z.
It's social media. They're seeing it on TikTok. They're seeing it on Instagram.
Phil Stebley owns a darkroom in San Clemente, California, where his lab technicians process and recycle 200 to 300 disposable cameras every single day.
Young people now enjoy it a lot. They didn't grow up with physical prints where old people like me, that's how we saw our photos.
And then there's the wait. Each print, a time capsule into the past.
It's the beauty of it. It's kind of like Christmas morning, opening up your photos and seeing and remembering all those little moments.
Oh, man. And when it comes to that vibe, they had one piece of advice. Do not forget the flash. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.